busy year for WWE on pay-per-view, 2012 saw the return match of a beast, the debut of a stable of hungry hounds, of justice, and a WrestleMania main event that was essentially a license to print money. Yes, the homecoming of Brock Lesnar, emergence of The Shield, and John Cena versus The Rock were the stories that dominated headlines that year. But that wasn't all that was going on, of course. 2012 was also something of a breakout year for Daniel Bryan, who was growing in popularity each and every week, and Sheamus, who was given the big babyface push and given a chance to right the wrongs of his main event run a few years prior. CM Punk's historic WWE title run was in full swing, and the former Skip Sheffield was improbably rising up the ranks, set for a showdown with the voice of the voiceless. Big Show and Kane were still knocking about, while Taker and Trips popped up for some major events. As always, the undercard was chock full of talent waiting to break out, and Dolph Ziggler, Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Alberto Del Rio could always be called upon to have a bloody good match. An interesting one to look back at, WWE's 12 Super Shows of 2012 produced plenty of talking points, some gripping action, and one or two head scratchers as well. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and this is every WWE pay-per-view of 2012 ranked from worst to best. Disagree with what I say here? Shout about it in the comments, or come and find me on Tout, sucker. Join us! Number 12, No Way Out. Despite having one of the best pay-per-view posters ever and some attractive matches on the undercard, No Way Out 2012 was still the weakest supercard of the year. Sheamus and Dolph Ziggler delivered a hard-worked opener that saw the Celtic Warrior retain his World Heavyweight title, Ricardo Rodriguez and Santino Marella's tuxedo match was a three-piece failure and emblematic of the type of comedy that WWE found so funny during the PG era. Christian defended his Intercontinental title against Cody Rhodes in a damn good professional wrestling bout between two damn good professional wrestlers. A number one contender 4-team elimination tag match pitting the winners, the primetime players, against Tyson Kidd and Justin Gabriel, the Usos, and Primo and Epico had a lot of movement but not a lot of reason for people to care. Beth Phoenix and Layla's Divas title match was fine, as was the original Sin Cara vs Hunico, the man who had portrayed the gimmick when the original left the company. CM Punk's WWE title defense against Daniel Bryan and Kane, which came about due to a convoluted storyline involving AJ Lee, was the best thing on the show. The Ryback handicap match squash that followed was not, but the Ryback experiment would work out in the end. And in the alleged main event, John Cena beat Big Show in a steel cage match featuring interference by Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and most of the Jobber Squad. Paint-by-numbers stuff all the way. After the match, Vince fired Johnny Ace before Cena delivered an AA through the announce table to send the punters home happy. Well, I say happy. Number 11, Royal Rumble. The first pay-per-view of 2012 does not rank up there with great Royal Rumbles of yore. A smartly worked World Heavyweight title triple threat match between Daniel Bryan, Big Show, and Mark Henry was a logical, if not especially exciting way to kick things off. An 8-woman tag match was harmless filler, while the John Cena vs Kane match that followed was just harmful, especially to resident schmuck Zack Ryder. It ended in double countout, but the fun didn't stop there as they brawled to the back where the Big Red Machine found Long Island Ice Z. From there it went on about as well as you could expect, the wheelchair-bound Ryder taking a tombstone pile driver as Eve watched on and cried. But I'm sure it all turned out great for Zack Ryder in the end. Right? Brodus Clay then squashed future world champion Drew. How did they manage to mess this up so bad? McIntyre, before CM Punk retained his WWE title in a cracking match with Dolph Ziggler where John Laurinaitis was acting as guest enforcer. The Rumble itself was one of the weaker ones that you're going to find. Outside of cute cameos by Mick Foley, Road Dogg, and Booker T, and an appearance by Karma, the match was full of no-hopers and had too much tone-deaf comedy. Sheamus, as good a choice as anyone, won the match and finally got his chance to point at the WrestleMania sign. Number 10, Hell in a Cell. It might be hard to imagine today, but once upon a time it looked as if Ryback was going to become a megastar. He got over strong thanks to his impactful squash match victories and amassed a winning streak that saw him go all the way to the top of the card, eventually challenging CM Punk for the WWE title. And believe it or not, many at the time were hopeful that the big guy would dethrone the best in the world in their Hell in a Cell showdown. It didn't happen, Punk instead dishing out Ryback's first loss with the help of a crooked referee, which transpired to be the long-forgotten Brad Maddox. A downer to end the night on for sure, but there were some good matches and moments to be found earlier in the show. It started well enough with a good match between Randy Orton and Alberto Del Rio. The mid-air RKO finish won for the highlight reel. Team Rhodes Scholars versus Team Hell No was similarly decent, but had a piss-poor DQ ending. Kofi Kingston and Cesaro defended their IC and US straps over The Miz and Justin Gabriel respectively. Both matches were decent enough ways to spend 10 minutes. The exciting team of Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara rolled over the primetime players in style before Big Show beat Sheamus to win the World Heavyweight title in the match of the night. This was full on and the fans popped for the switch. And just before the main event, Eve Torres bested Layla and Kaitlyn to keep her Divas title. Number 9, Elimination Chamber. A pair of Elimination Chamber matches were the best thing at Elimination Chamber 2012. How apt. The kickoff, a world title affair that saw champion CM Punk defending against former tag team champion partner Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler, R-Truth, Miz and Chris Jericho, was a grand way to start the show. The opening exchanges between Punk and Kofi were great, and the creativity and the match pace ramped up as more bodies entered the fray. There were some really nifty spots, particularly from Kingston, who must have been out to impress, but besides Jericho, it was hard to believe that anyone was going to take the belt off of Punk. And so it came to be, as the straight-edge superstar went the distance and left as champion. Y2J was never properly eliminated, however, sowing the seeds for a WrestleMania match. Beth Phoenix retained her Divas title against Tamina in a match that wasn't really up to much, a routine victory for the Glamazon. We'll also skip right past the segment between John Laurinaitis and Teddy Long, because this was a pay-per-view and it really had no right to be on here. The World Heavyweight title Elimination Chamber match certainly did, mind you. An odd-looking lineup on paper, Daniel Bryan was defending against Big Show, Cody Rhodes, Wade Barrett, The Great Khali, and Santino? Yes, the Milan Miracle, the career comedy mid-carder who wore a snake puppet on his arm, was challenging for one of the most important titles in the industry. And what a masterstroke it was, as his unlikely eliminations of Rhodes and Barrett received monstrous reactions and set up an incredible final segment with the reigning champion. Morella was over like Rover as they teased the impossible, fans biting on every near fall before the inevitable. After all that excitement, a cool down was required, and is anything as ice cold as Jack Swagger's US title defense against Justin Gabriel. Meanwhile, the John Cena vs Kane ambulance match was goofy, cartoony fun, and gave Cena something to do while he waited for The Rock. Number 8, Survivor Series. The 2012 Survivor Series will largely be known as the night Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns made their WWE debuts. Interfering in the main event in order to help CM Punk retain his WWE title over Ryback and John Cena, the three developmental standouts made an immediate impact and felt like a major deal right from the off. When the show went off air, most people were speculating about the three men who would come to be known as The Shield. A hot and high-flying start saw a 10-man traditional Survivor Series elimination tag match with Rey Mysterio, Sin Cara, Justin Gabriel, Tyson Kidd and Brodus Clay taking on Tensai, Primo and Epico, and the Primetime Players. Everyone but Brodus on the babyface squad managed to survive. The Eve Torres vs Kaitlyn and Cesaro vs R-Truth Divas and US title matches respectively both felt tacked on and lacked any real fire, while Big Show and Sheamus's World Heavyweight title throwdown was not one of their stronger ones, and the DQ ending had no place on a major pay-per-view. And in the other traditional Survivor Series 10-man, Team Ziggler, Dolph, Barrett, Sandow, Del Rio and Otunga, subbing for an injured Cody Rhodes, took on Team Foley, Daniel Bryan, Kane, Kofi, Orton and Miz. The match was long and took a little while to get going, but once it did, it was captivating stuff. The clean win for Ziggler, a sight as rare as gold dust, no, not that one, was a nice surprise as well. Number 7, SummerSlam. A blockbuster main event between Triple H and Brock Lesnar was the talk of Tinseltown, as SummerSlam 2012 rolled into the Staples Center in Los Angeles. In his second match back in the company after an 8-year absence, the Beast Incarnate looked like he hadn't missed a step as he went 20 minutes with the game in a grueling no DQ match. The two Titans beat the holy hell out of each other, but the match also had tight psychology, with Trips focusing on Lesnar's gut and Brock continuously going back to what would prove proved to be a match-winning Kimura. Other entertainment was provided by a back-and-forth Dolph Ziggler-Chris Jericho opener, a decent Miz Mysterio IC title match, Team Hell No colliding in singles competition, Sheamus and Alberto Del Rio squaring off for the World Heavyweight title, and a smartly worked WWE title triple threat with CM Punk, John Cena, and Big Show. All in all, SummerSlam had only one match that didn't feel like it belonged, a WWE Tag Team title match with Kofi Kingston and R-Truth defending against the Primetime Players, and even that wasn't half bad. Everything else was entertaining or continued a storyline, and the show closer felt necessarily big time. Number 6, Over the Limit. Over the Limit now, and no, that's not the result of an Uso breathalyzer test, but one of WWE's standout pay-per-views of 2012. Over the Limit had surprises, title changes, and a genuine Match of the Year candidate in the shape of Daniel Bryan and CM Punk's WWE title classic. A 25-minute wrestling clinic everyone should go out of their way to see this one. Also well worth your time is the other heavyweight title match, a four-way with Sheamus defending against Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, and Alberto Del Rio. This was as good as that lineup of talent suggests, and maybe even a little bit better. Christian returned to action from a long injury layoff in the opener, winning a battle royal to gain a shot at Cody Rhodes and his Intercontinental title later in the night. Captain Charisma shockingly won that match too, netting his fourth and final IC strap after some smart action. Also good was the tag team title match on the show, Kofi Kingston and R-Truth edging past Jack Swagger and Dolph Ziggler in frenetic formula fun. The show wasn't perfect, of course, with the Layla Beth Phoenix Divas title match, Miz vs Brodus Clay, and Ryback's squash of Camacho all adding little. And then there was the main event, John Laurinaitis defeating John Cena thanks to a Big Show heel turn, obviously. Not quite up there with Johnny Ace's All Japan thrillers with Misawa and Kobashi, this was campy nonsense that saw Cena dominate and humiliate the VP of Talent Relations right up until the finish. Number 5, Money in the Bank. The Money in the Bank pay-per-view is usually good value, and 2012 was no different. With 2 sensational ladder matches and another barn burner with 2 indie darlings done good, this is a show that won't hurt you if you happen to revisit it. The car crash action started right out of the gate with a World Heavyweight title contract Money in the Bank ladder match, Dolph Ziggler, Christian, Tensai, Sin Cara, Damian Sandow, Tyson Kidd, Cody, and Santino were the human stunt dummies in this one. A career shortener full of thrills, spills, and huge bumps, the show-off was a popular choice for the winner. Ziggler tried to cash in after the next match, a successful World Heavyweight title defense for Sheamus over Alberto Del Rio. A bro kick put paid to that, but Ziggler retained the case on a technicality. In the other world title match, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan had another humdinger, this time with no disqualifications and AJ Lee as the special guest ref. A different type of match to their over-the-limit stunner, this is another one that you should consider making time for. And in the main event, John Cena rose above Chris Jericho, Kane, Big Show, and The Miz to earn the WWE title contract. Most remember the Cena face meme from the match's ending, but everything leading up to it was good stuff too, with everyone working hard and suffering for their art. There is filler here with a Primetime Players vs Primo and Epico tag, a 6-woman tag match, and Ryback squashing Kurt Hawkins, and, oh yeah, I remember him, Tyler Rex, but everything that needed to deliver did, and you have the option to fast forward, so really, what are you even complaining about? Number 4, Night of Champions. Number 4 is Night of Champions, in which a title was defended in 6 of the 7 matches on the card, and not one of them was a stinker. Fast-paced action to start, with The Miz defending his Intercontinental title in a neat 4-way against Rey Mysterio, Sin Cara, and Cody Rhodes. That was followed up with the first title change of the night as Team Hell No dethroned R-Truth and Kofi Kingston in a good match that was helped a lot by how over Kane and Bryan's antics were. Cesaro then retained the US title against Zack Ryder in an alright contest that really wasn't much of a contest. There was no way the Swiss Superman was losing here. Non-title action up next, and even though a championship wasn't up for grabs, that didn't stop Randy Orton and Dolph Ziggler from giving maximum effort in what was the second longest and second best match on the show. Eve Torres, who was on the cusp of turning heel, replaced the kayfabe-injured Caitlyn to win the Divas title from Layla in a perfectly fine match. Sheamus and Alberto Del Rio had a stiff World Heavyweight title match that was filled with some great arm work by Del Rio and equally great selling by Sheamus, who retained via Brogue Kick. And in the main event, the reliable pairing of John Cena and CM Punk fought over the WWE title in another stellar installment in their series. They may have went a bit OTT with the near falls, and the draw ending was a bit too cute for its its own good, but as a match it was electrifying, WrestleMania-worthy stuff. Speaking of which, number 3, WrestleMania 28. There were dodgy booking decisions, missed opportunities, and some totally forgettable matches on it, but WrestleMania 28 still managed to overcome and land itself in the top 3 for the year. Things got off to a, shall we say, controversial start, as Sheamus bro-kicked and pinned Daniel Bryan to win the World Heavyweight title in 18 seconds. Though it was most certainly a WrestleMania moment, it wasn't exactly a happy one, as it cheated fans out of a highly anticipated match and seemingly buried Bryan, who was on the verge of becoming a major fan favourite. Kane vs Randy Orton was just plain weak, and definitely one for the Randy Orton when he isn't really trying pile. Cody Rhodes lost the IC title to Big Show in a short match that could have really been used to help the upcoming Cody, while Kelly Kelly and Maria Menounos taking on Beth Phoenix and Eve Torres helped to get the women and a celebrity on the show, so mission accomplished there. Then the show really picks up with the end of an era Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Triple H, with Shawn Michaels as the guest referee. An unbelievable performance by all three. This was Shakespeare in a squared circle surrounded by steel. The Game and the Phenom beat the tar out of each other as HBK provided an extra bit of drama to the proceedings. And if you tell me that you didn't buy into that sweet chin music / pedigree nearfall, then you're a bigger liar than Hulk Hogan when taking the stand. This was a masterpiece. The Team Johnny vs Team Teddy 10-man tag was not a critical success, but the sight of Zack Ryder taking a shin to the nads from love interest Eve should at least serve as a cautionary tale to anyone who thinks about trying to get over by themselves. CM Punk and Chris Jericho's WWE title match was a bit of a slow burner, but when it burned, it did so brightly, really picking up in the last 10 minutes or so with a ton of great reversals and false finishes. Another big win for Punk here, even if he thought he should have gone on last. Which brings us to The Rock vs John Cena, the once-in-a-lifetime, yeah right, dream match between two of the industry's biggest icons. A year-long feud based on real animosity and built with some tremendously entertaining interviews and angles, there were high expectations leading into it. Thankfully, both men delivered, sewing together a half-hour epic that played to their strengths and truly befitted the occasion. When all was said and done, the Great One had his hand raised, but both raised their profiles here. Number 2, TLC. 1 month after their inspired debut at Survivor Series, The Shield had their first televised WWE match against Team Hell No and Ryback in a tables, ladders and chairs war. Start as you mean to go on, they say, and Ambrose, Reigns and Rollins clearly wanted to make a great first impression and put it all on the line at TLC. A wild and chaotic brawl, the pace never let up for a minute, and by the end of the match, The Shield were certified stars. Certainly the highlight of the show, but The Shield 6-man wasn't the only great match on WWE's second best pay-per-view of the year. John Cena and Dolph Ziggler had a belter of a ladder match in the main event, Ziggler winning the bout and retaining his Money in the Bank briefcase after plenty of high-octane action and interference from Vicky Guerrero and AJ Lee, who turned on the leader of the C Nation. Kofi Kingston retained his IC title in a good match with Wade Barrett, Team Rhodes Scholars became #1 contenders to the tag team titles in a lively tables match with Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara, and the Big Show retained the World Heavyweight title in a smashing chairs match with Sheamus. Smashing chairs. Get it? Good. There was some filler to be found, and I don't think anyone, except maybe Steve Lombardi's bank account, needed a Brooklyn Brawler pay-per-view appearance in 2012, but overall, the big matches were great, and plenty happened at WWE's last major show of the year. Number 1, Extreme Rules. Brock Lesnar's first WWE match in close to a decade was the major attraction at Extreme Rules 2012, WWE's first pay-per-view after WrestleMania 28. Fresh off his historic UFC run, Lesnar walked back into the company with a new, even scarier aura and a legitimacy that nobody in the company could match. Astonishingly, WWE beat Brock in his first night back, as the next big thing lost an Extreme Rules match to John Cena in the show's main event. As a match, it was fantastic and unlike anything seen in a WWE ring to that point. Lesnar hadn't missed a step, but did vary up his offense and approach in reference to his MMA career. Logic would dictate that he should have went over here, but logic never met a man so accustomed to rising above hate and never giving up. Or Vince McMahon. In other standout matches, Daniel Bryan and Sheamus got to have the match they should have had at WrestleMania, a splendid 2 out of 3 falls match that was competitive and expertly worked. CM Punk once again beat Chris Jericho in a stirring Chicago street fight. You could say the Windy City faithful were happy to see their hometown boy ply his trade. Oh, they were loud. Randy Orton got his win back over Kane in a Falls Count Anywhere match that was much better than their WrestleMania bore. Cody Rhodes regained the Intercontinental title in a tables match against Big Show. The world's largest athlete lost by simply stepping through a table in a lame finish, but the reckless post-match attack somewhat made up for it. Layla won the Divas title from Nikki Bella, Ryback squashed a couple of jobbers, and Brodus Clay beat Dolph Ziggler, a result I'm sure made sense to someone at the time. A great show pretty much from top to bottom. Extreme Rules could have been even better and gone down as an all-timer if only some of the booking wasn't so damn short-sighted. Still a fantastic show with some wonderful moments and superb matches.